What's up? Wednesday, October 19th, Shoot the Gap podcast, the IDP podcast for Fantasy and Frames Podcast Network. I'm Nate Markham. This is week 7. Joining me, as always, Mike Wohlert, Jorge Edwards. Fellas, we ready to talk another week of IDP?
Absolutely. We got the right intro this week, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Kidding aside, you guys did a great job last week. Sorry I couldn't be on the show, but very happy to be back and talk shop with you.
Yeah, Mike, what's going on with you, man?
Not too much. Jorge, you doing all right after the 30-point beatdown I put on you last week?
Yes, I am doing fine. Thank you. My wounds have been healed since then. Yes, thank you.
Licking the wounds as we speak. Yeah, nothing much more fun than when you play against the people that you get to talk to and they get to rub it in your face in front of everybody. I missed the Fourth and Frames podcast earlier, and Billy Mustafa was on, and Billy is our Buffalo Bills fan, and he thought that I was playing, cat and mouse, running away, not having to listen. But hey, I'll live with it. Don't get me wrong, I would rather have won that game, but it was a good game. I think it was pretty much a preview of the AFC Championship, at least what I would expect. Things can go crazy. We'll see. But
because the rest of the AFC is outside of Kansas City and Buffalo, the AFC is wide open.
It really is. I mean, I thought the
bunch
road
of mid teams.
I know, it's crazy, right? Because we thought there would be 8 or 9 elite, and then the rest kind of blah. Mm-hmm. But maybe it's
maybe there's
a lot more good, and maybe that's what happens. Better teams, you start to normalize in the middle and see. And Rams or the Chiefs, moved aside about $3.5 million, restructuring Travis Kelce's contract.
Oh, it's 10. Oh, Alex Singleton got another tackle. Go ahead.
Oh, 27 and a half.
Yeah. 28 according to the PFF, just letting you know. So.
Right, exactly. But a grade of 24. I'm just kidding. Actually got a 90.
No, he got a 90.
Yeah, he did really good. It was joking is that they looked at Quinnen Williams, who had a monster week, and yet he was graded like as a 60 or 60. Whatever it was. And that just doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I don't claim to know it. I don't claim to try to do the grades, so I can't criticize unless I have an answer. But I can say, What
Erroneous, he's good. He's good.
What I do know is that there are 4 more teams on a bye. Number 1, Buffalo Bills. Gregory Rousseau, Tremaine Edmonds, Von Miller was a monster, by the way. Good Lord. But Jordan Poyer might have been baller of the week. What do you guys think of that? Dude couldn't get cleared to fly, so he got a ride to Kansas City to bust some ass.
No, he drove. He didn't catch her. He drove. He rented a car and went.
Yeah.
Oh.
He drove. He drove himself.
Yeah.
Even better.
Impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, screw driving. That's
don't question his motivation to play. Ever.
No doubt. I mean, seriously. I was very impressed. And granted, did it have an effect on the game? Yeah. Jordan Poyer being out there makes a difference always. It's incredible. Rams on a bye. Honestly, it's crazy. Pretty much just Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner of players that I'm legitimately worried. I don't think anybody else, any other names that you guys from that team that you're scrambling to replace?
Nope.
Minnesota might have as many, if not more than anybody. Donnell Hunter, Zadarius Smith, Jordan Hicks, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, Lewis Seen. You don't have to worry about Mike. He's still.
Oh, come on, too soon.
Too soon. That's 6 weeks ago. That's plenty of time.
He's never left my starting lineup.
Exactly, and he still beat Jorge by 30.
That's horrible. Wait,
exactly.
Is that
true? Yeah, you know it's true. And the Philadelphia Eagles, the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles, the first place Philadelphia Eagles, will get a chance to rest. No Josh Sweat, TJ Edwards. One name that I'm finding myself not sweating to replace, but he's been really good, is CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Replace him with Tariq Woolen.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's Pretty good little pivot
They're
there.
all DBs are replaceable.
Correct. As I think that's one thing we kind of can learn is, hell, with maybe this Money and Mirage segment, there might be some other names that it just you don't expect to pop up that could have validity or play.
And how lucky are the Eagles that they drafted Nakobe Dean and he's only played 3 snaps? Like they have not needed him.
Yeah, it's big. Kazir White's been really good. TJ Edwards has been really good. That rotation up front, and that's another crazy thing. Jordan Davis, if you watched, I mean, there were so many stretches of games where, I mean, he didn't even get on the field, and it was like, I thought initially. So we had some friends of Haley's came over. We had a wedding Saturday night. The guys were, asking for some fantasy, quote unquote, advice, and so we were all talking football. And a couple of them came over Sunday to watch the games because they know that I have all the games on, and they're both huge Eagles fans. And that was the one thing that I found fascinating is we were talking about the Eagles, and they were talking about Jordan Davis. And before the game, I said, I was like, if he can play more than 20, 25 snaps a week, that would be huge. And he played 22. And with that, he didn't do anything statistically. He had 1 tackle, but he still was a presence. And that's the one, there's no way you can quantify IDP wise someone that's 380 pounds that just occupies space. If it was space occupied per point, Jordan Davis leads the league because that's a big man. Who let's just go tell me what the hell's going on in news and injuries or IR activations with JOK. I think I know someone that can maybe fill us in. Mike, what in the F is happening with his usage?
He's not good. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, it seems like they trust Sion Takitaki a little more. He's playing a little more, but JOK is just maybe I overvalued him. We overvalued him. I don't know, but he's just not good. It looks as if though maybe the Deion Jones acquisition is probably going to impact him a little bit more. But I think he only played 45% of the game last week. So it's he's not good right now. Yeah, really. Bottom line.
Will you think with Deion Jones, once he gets up to speed, will put in JOK in a position where maybe he might be more best suited for his skill set, be advantageous for IDP managers or for him in general?
At this point, I don't know. It's all a mess right now on the defensive side of the ball. Nobody is communicating. Nobody is making tackles. Nobody is. I mean, it's basically Myles Garrett is basically carrying that whole defense right now. Yeah. And he's hurt too. So
right at his shoulder.
No, Grant Delpit has been awful. You just target him and there's it's just all a mess.
Yeah, I believe if I'm not mistaken, he has about 132 passer rating allowed against, something around that range. I think it's the second
triple
worst.
Digits. Definitely triple digits. And all of their pretty much every one of their defensive line has, outside of Garrett and Clowney, have graded in the 40s, in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
so
for people that aren't familiar with PFF, that is not good on the grading.
Yeah, if you're graded 106 out of 110, that's not good. It's not a bizarro grading or bizarro league where it's the opposite is better.
Exactly.
This is not good.
So just a shout out to people who are chiming in on our chat. For our IDP show, we like to keep it to IDP questions. So that's what you'll be seeing pop up on the screen. If you have questions about offense, feel free to check us out at 8 p.m., 7:30 p.m., or on our pregame show on Sunday morning starting at 9:30 a.m. But for Shoot the Gap, we're going to keep it strictly to IDP questions.
And Malcolm, yes, I would. AJ Terrell, Jorge.
There you go, Malcolm.
He's nothing if not man of a people.
I was pumping the brake. I was banging the drum on Kyron. But so, Jorge, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
AJ Terrell has an injury. We are unsure exactly if he's going to play. From a defensive standpoint, put on your defensive coordinator headset.
Yep.
Okay. It says Washington. Take that one off and put on a good team's defense.
Stop it.
I'm just kidding. I would say Atlanta, but that's not a good one either. Richie Grant. What do they do with Richie Grant if you lose a player of AJ Terrell's caliber? Do you think he still plays in the box as much, or do you think they go with maybe more of a shell type to account for the lack of production at corner? Or is that something that they even consider? I don't know if I know this answer.
I guess it depends on how much faith you have on the pass rush up front, whether or not you want to shift people out of position to cover for another position. For example, putting Grant maybe playing him more outside the box and more in coverage. If you believe like a Ebiketie or whoever that other person is that maybe we'll be talking about later. Depending on what you think about that, I don't see. I take that back. I could see Grant playing more in coverage this week if Terrell misses.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Mike, do you look at those things when that something like that happens with AJ Terrell? Does that affect your input going into Richie Grant, like your forecast or your overall projections for him on a given week, or do you just give up on that?
I mean, last week Grant played 46 snaps deep and slot, so he's been averaging anywhere between 25-30 as a free safety.
Mm-hmm.
And looks like anywhere around 20 in the slot. So he's going to be in coverage. Last week, you only had 4 box snaps. So, I mean, if you're in a big play league, he certainly has the upside for some bigger plays. It was definitely his lowest box usage. So, I mean, that's definitely a little bit of a concern.
Yeah.
But I think I bumped him down a little bit. And actually, AJ Terrell just hasn't been good either.
No, he hasn't. I mean, it's been all noticeable. Like his touchdown that he's given up has subsided a little bit from his disastrous start through the first couple of weeks. But I also wonder about Richie Grant, if the fact that they actually were winning a game and San Francisco had to try to go back and actually pass, and they felt more comfortable letting Grant try to play back in that. So again, another situation that we might not see again is Atlanta actually leading a game. Unfair. Sorry, Atlanta. Sorry, Keith and anybody else is Falcons fans, but it's just, fact of the matter. I have another question. What do fantasy managers expect Blake Martinez in his really first week? I know it might be a second, but this is the first time to actually have a whole week's worth of getting assimilated to the defense, etc. Jorge, Mike, I mean, let's just do an over under easy is 50% of the snaps.
Over.
Mike?
Not by much.
I'm 50. I'm going to say under.
Okay. And that is the answer that I was looking for. 2 different answers like that at 50%. And that just means I'm still in a void. He's still a hold for me. What about a super shallow league, Mike? Are you still holding on to Blake Martinez if you did through this whole time?
Super shallow? No.
Yeah.
If I was in a shallow league, I probably wouldn't have even. I'd let somebody else take it. I'm in a shallow league. You're just kind of swapping guys. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And that's Jorge. That's what I was saying. I mean, I'm in some not real shallow leagues, and I've kept them, and it's only because I have great starters at linebacker that I didn't have to worry about in and out. Just, sometimes you have a toy that you don't want to let go of. Got my little Whoopie blanket or whatever you want to call it. That's what Blake Martinez's nickname now is, Whoopie.
Wow.
We'll
tweet that out and be like,
hey
Blake.
Hey,
Whoopie.
Hey, Whoopie. He's supposed to be a nice protective linebacker for you as your LB1. I traded Matt Judon away to you, Jorge, and
yes, you did. I
got nothing out of him. But the Giants, speaking of maybe future ex-Giants, Tay Crowder finally his usage is back down. What'll be? Can we move on from the Tay Crowder experiment, or are we in for another week where he might get 80+% of the snaps and actually have double-digit tackles again?
Tay Crowder to me is somebody that I will happily lose not drinking the Kool-Aid. Like if I lose because Tay Crowder went off and I didn't have him in my lineup, oh well. I mean, I'm not going to invest my time and energy into worrying about Tate Crowder as a starting option for me.
Yeah, I think the Giants last week, they didn't run out a true like full-time linebacker. They were going Crowder saw 68%, Smith saw 54%, and then Dane Belton saw 71% of the snaps on the third safety. So they went single linebacker, and if that's what Martindale's going to do, then
see ya.
I'm out.
I am. That's the Kool-Aid. If you were drinking the Kool-Aid on Tate Crowder, it's a la the Jonestown Massacre, the Jonestown Colt, and you are probably now 6 feet under because that you know the reference there.
I have no idea.
I know what you're talking about.
So in Jonestown, it was a cult back in the late 70s. About almost 1,000 people died at this settlement where they had them drink Kool-Aid. I believe that was Jonestown. Yeah.
Where is Jonestown?
Jonestown is in Guyana.
Yeah,
it was a U.S. base. Jim Jones is who it was. That is the history lesson for the day. From Australia last week to Jim Jones this week. Let's finish up the news and notes and injuries, etc. With the unfortunate news is Logan Wilson. I think one of our collective favorites, at least in the Shoot the Gap pod, out somewhere between 2 and 5 weeks, kind of wide range, but he hasn't been the beacon of health. Mike, Logan Wilson's out. I know we'll probably talk about Jermaine Pratt here in a little bit, but it's a pretty good sized loss to the Bengals as a whole.
Yeah, he was pretty important to the defense for sure, as you know, just from a real football standpoint. But I tweeted this earlier, just like with running backs, as soon as a running back sees a bump in volume, there's also somebody else that someone clamors to the waiver wire for. And I think now, even in deeper leagues and bye weeks, you might have to look at Akeem Davis-Gaither also, because I think he's also probably going to see 60 to 70. He could see 60 to 70% of the snaps on a weekly basis also.
Yeah, and a team like the Bengals that have a chance to quick strikes on offense could turn into a decent amount of snaps when you're playing 60 to 70% of a high volume defense like that.
Oh, and real quick, do we need to pour one out for Cody Barton? Is Cody Barton's season over?
I mean, wasn't there hope? Week 5, it was like, Cody Barton. Sorry, Mike. We know he's gone. And then what happens? Oh, Cody Barton's back. He got the Pete Carroll and him went out for Starbucks, and he petitioned back on the field and had a good game. Yeah. And then, so yeah, 30, I don't want to play
39% single linebacker. Ryan Neal heavy. He's hurt. Ryan Neal, I think, got a limited practice. So I think AJ Johnson was in for a workout, but they didn't bring it. They didn't sign him or do anything. I didn't see a signing or anything. So,
which, speaking of him, how is he not signed? And even for a team that just wants a run stopper, because last year, if you looked, his run stopping metrics were really phenomenal.
Good. And the run defense got bad once he got hurt.
That's just crazy. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't go off on a tangent about that one area, but AJ Johnson, to me, seems like a name that could have been signed a long time ago. But then again, the hell do we know? Blake Martinez was a free agent. Tate Crowder has a job. JOK was playing enough snaps. What,
I don't know. These people know what they're doing, I guess. We're just spouting off. We're
just a bunch of dum-dums all sitting behind a microphone talking. And that's okay.
Well, this went in a direction. Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, that's good, because you know what? That kind of leads me into the next one. What type of output can you project? And some of these fantasy managers versus the real-time general managers might see a mirage of a player. Others see someone that could be money. And that's the segment that we're going to dive right into is money or mirage. We're going to take a look at this week's most anticipated free agent waiver wire pickups. And we take a look deeper and we say, are they actually going to produce like money? Or are they just a simple mirage based off previous stats? Last week, we had a couple options. Isaiah Simmons was coming off some increased workload. Nick Vigil was hurt. Isaiah Simmons again. Nothing but, I don't know the term.
Crap.
Yeah, crap is fair. It was bad. It was, again, just Fool me 37 times, shame on me. Fool me another 74, and shame on you. Won't be fooled again.
I'm reminded of that scene. Have you guys seen Basketball?
Which
Yes.
Where the guy goes, man, you guys keep picking on me another 34 times, and I'm out.
Shut up, Squeak.
Exactly.
63% of the snaps. I mean, I don't know. Zaven Collins is the only one that I'm.
Yep.
I don't know.
Exactly. Maybe the easiest pick, and I think that collectively everybody can pat themselves on the back. Alex Singleton, tell me if you've heard the name, might have been a money pickup. Fair?
I think that's
last week.
I
Hell yeah!
I don't think that's a hot. I think that may be a hot take. And yes, no, you can't expect 20 tackles a game going forward.
No,
please. I think he has a nice safe floor. I think his floor is probably 9, but yeah, he 20 tackles is an anomaly for anybody.
And like Gary Davenport mentioned, or like Gary and we were talking, someone else mentioned as well, 90 plus snaps.
Yeah.
Will give you that opportunity. We saw that with Houston in week 1. Everybody had 15 tackles that week, and everybody thought, oh man,
this is,
are these guys blowing up? And it's like, well, no, you need a 9% tackle volume and you have 8 tackles. I mean, hell, that's pretty simple. That math works out. Jorge, don't check it. I see you getting your abacus out right now.
How bad are the Broncos that in overtime the Chargers had 58 total defensive snaps, including overtime?
Yeah, exactly. That's just, I mean,
how do you run almost double?
I
mean, the defense, obviously their Denver's defense was bend, don't break. That's pretty much what their defense was, is just bend, don't break.
Yeah.
We'll give up the plays and the yards, and we'll stop you when it matters.
Ugh, nothing about Denver is exciting. Nothing about that game other than going to OT.
I'll tell you who's exciting. Baron Browning, man, the past couple weeks has been on a tear. He's the one exciting thing outside of Jewel and Singleton, I think.
So what do we do with Singleton when Josie Jewell returns?
I'm holding on Singleton just because I think he's played his way into more snaps. I think he's shown he's better than Griffith.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Even from a great, if you're just looking at it from a grading standpoint, I think he's played his way into more snaps. So I'm holding. He's that. He's kind of the Alexander Madison. He's kind of that.
Ooh, I like that. That's
kind of that handcuff. As soon as the starter goes on, you can just plug him in, and you got some production.
Yeah,
nice.
Elite production, baby. Yeah, he was the LB1 last week. In San Francisco, we had the conversation of Drake Jackson and Charles Omenihu, and both had, even though I put Mirage for Drake Jackson, he got the sack, which is all that really truly matters, and put up 8.5 points. I'm going to call that actually money for what you would have expected. If you had to start Drake Jackson in a pinch, congratulations, you play in a 40-team league, and you picked up the right person. But that whole San Francisco front line just seems to be picking up and not replacing Nick Bosa. But I gotta tell you, for the Chiefs this week, if Bosa returns, it'll be interesting to see who misses the most snaps. I think that'll probably be Drake Jackson, because Samson Ebicom has had great weeks as of late. What else? So Tyrell Dodson was a mirage simply because Tremaine Edmonds did play, and I was way off again that I understand Brandon Staley or what he's going to say and or do. Nasir Adderley played the majority of the snaps, so I give up. I don't even know. But let's look at this week and take a look at Quinnen Williams. We just recently talked about him, joking around about his grade, even though he's been one of the most disruptive forces in the middle. Jorge,
yes, sir.
Money or mirage? Quinnen Williams.
Oh, money. It was funny. I was looking for players to fill in my defensive lineman spot a couple weeks ago because injury concerns, and I'm like, I see Quinnen Williams on my waiver wire. I'm like, ugh, a D tackle. Like, oh, well, he seems to be doing okay, but and then I read his stats more. I'm like, okay, he's got a sack there. He's got a sack there. He's got a sack there. 2 sacks there. Every week he's got a sack. And it is probably the smartest waiver wire ad I've had all season at defensive lineman. This guy has been playing lights out for fantasy managers. And that's crazy. A D tackle or interior defensive lineman having just as good production as your traditional edge rushers in fantasy. Mike, you had mentioned earlier in our pre-show, he has a 15% pressure rate, which is crazy. And he has 24 pressures on the season, which ranks him as the DL 11. He has 5 sacks, according to PREF, which has him as the DL 11. If you look at PFF stats, they have him at 6 sacks, which has him tied for first overall. This guy is just a disruptive presence, and that's the thing. I don't understand how Pro Football Focus does their grading. I don't get the nuances of what gives them a 67 versus a 94, but for fantasy, I can see that numbers add up and fantasy points add up, and the consistency of what you're seeing is there. And I just got to keep rolling with it, right?
Right. Mike, you seeing the same? Seeing a money player?
Yep.
I mean, it's at some point you just have to believe in everything that we keep seeing with them. And this matchup this week is just kind of as advantageous, at least if we're using this past weekend or this past week as an indicator. As the Jets will get the Broncos, Jets offense seems to be at least moving the ball with Breece Hall, but that up the middle, DeForest Buckner had a great game in week 5. I like Williams this week. So yeah, how about Mike? Let's go to the next one. What are you thinking, money or mirage, on Arnold Ebiketie?
You know what? I'll let Jorge take it. I didn't really write anything up on him or really look deeper into what
no worries.
He did last week. So
Yeah.
I'll let Jorge take it.
What do you think, Jorge?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm going to reference what Nate wrote about Ebiketie our IDP waiver wire article that went out on fantasyandframes.com on Tuesday. Look, this guy has had the most pressures out of any Atlanta Falcons edge rusher. It's just at the end of the day, the sacks just have not been piling up. It's almost like he's in the area that you want him to be to make the play. It's just the bulk of the plays have not happened yet. Nate, you wrote up wonderfully that last week or the past 2 weeks he's been lining up on the right side, which would potentially put him up against Jonah Williams this week, who's given up, I believe, 20-something plus pressures. So from that standpoint, from the matchup standpoint with the offensive lineman, I feel like that's a money matchup. The only concern I have with him this week is that the player he kind of subbed in for, Ogundeji.
Oh, is that how you say it?
Well, sure, we'll go with both. Ogundeji, thank you. Had a limited practice today, so if that keeps going, then obviously we know where this is going to lead. But if that does not turn out to be the case, then Ebiketie, I think, does have a great matchup this week.
Yeah, it was the most snaps by like 20 or by 30 outside the tackle for the first time, and it's a little bit easier when you get some leverage like that than it is playing interior. But I like Ebiketie for what the upside. But you're right. Pay attention to Ogundeji's, however you want to say it. We'll figure it out eventually whenever we hear how he's being replaced by Ebiketie. Mike, Zaven Collins. We said it earlier. There might just be a one linebacker to even consider there. Is it Zaven Collins?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's calling the plays, so he's not leaving the field. So for me, I'm all sorts of stubborn. I like the guys that don't leave the field. If they're efficient, if they're inefficient, then that's another thing. But he hasn't been inefficient. He's 7 or more tackles in 4 of the 6 games. Has 2 sacks, so he's also being used in the pass rush. It seems a little bit more. So he's slowly increasing that tackle rate. I think he's now up over a little bit over 11%. So slowly getting there. And like I said, he's not leaving the field. And those are you can't get fantasy points if you're on a bench or on your sideline. So give me the guy that's staying on the field.
Zaven Collins is his 46 pass rush snaps is tied for the most in the NFL amongst linebackers. He's only tied with Patrick Queen and Devin White, and he's turned those 46 pass rush snaps into only 6 pressures, but 2 sacks, 4 hurries. And I think that with his prowess, he could turn that, because it's got about a 16% win rate on the pressure. So I think that'll turn into even more sacks potentially going forward. great floor for Zaven Collins. You mentioned people you like not leaving the field. Mike, do you think Jermaine Pratt, filling in for Logan Wilson to an extent, I guess, at least seeing more playing time, will be one of those other guys that won't leave the field?
Yeah, because as soon as Logan hit the field, Jermaine Pratt was in on 100% of the snaps when he left, and he was calling the plays. So he's the signal caller. I think last year he had 4 or 5 games where he filled in for Logan. Pretty efficient tackler when he gets the usage. So I mean, he's a pretty efficient tackler anyway. Only problem is if he's playing 60 to 70% of the snaps, it's inconsistent. But he's a relatively efficient tackler. So again, he's calling the plays. He's going to be on the field. So give me that. Yeah, give me the tackles. Give me the volume.
Jorge, money mirage on both Collins and Pratt.
So I'm more confident in Pratt than I am Zaven Collins. It's hard. It's honestly, guys, it's hard for me to trust anybody on the Cardinals defense other than Jalen, which I never thought I'd say he'd be the one over Buddha. Yes, I understand the notion that Zaven Collins is going to be on the field. So I guess he wins by default in terms of like having the most opportunities. Whether that keeps translating is an interesting story. It will be interesting, but the opportunity will be there. For me, Pratt, going back to last year, Mike, you alluded to it just a few minutes ago. In weeks 14, 15, and 16, when Wilson was out, Pratt filled in. In week 14, he got you 9 total tackles for 11.3 fantasy pros points, 15 total tackles the next week for 20, 6 totals for 8. So very solid. If you had Logan Wilson and you were entering your fantasy playoffs, Jermaine Pratt was not the reason you may have lost. It is quite possibly a reason why you cruised through your playoffs.
There you go. So Jorge said it here. You will win your playoffs if you have Jermaine Pratt. Jorge, will you win your playoffs or will you win week 7 if you have Rayshawn Jenkins at safety?
So I definitely think you're going to win week 7. I talked about Rayshawn Jenkins heading into last week on their pregame show. You wrote about him on the IDP waiver wire article. He ranks 11th in box snaps among safeties in the NFL today. In Fantasy Pros IDP scoring, he's a DB 26 with a 10.3 point per game average. He has a 17.6% tackle rate when playing against the run. He is the DB 16 overall in total tackles, 15 in blitz usage. And I know some people are going to knock him for his 20+% missed tackle rate. I get it. That's generally not a good thing. But what people should be aware of is that nobody is taking that job from him. He's going to be on the field. No other safety comes close to matching his production for the Jaguars. So it's not like there's going to be any concern there. And this week they're going against a Giants team that they're predicated on running the ball with Saquon. So this is right up his alley. He should be getting you another solid 8 or 9 tackles this week, if not more.
Nice. So, Mike, any input on Rayshawn Jenkins? Do you have an opinion on him at all, or you happy to concede that he's going to be money because we have talked about him for a week now straight?
I'll concede. I don't know. He's always been a guy that I just never sought after.
He's a guy, right?
He's a guy.
It's just matchup based situation.
It seems like Jacksonville, when they have an opportunity to let him play in the box, they do, and he rewards them. It's inconsistent. Like last year, we saw it wasn't every single. It was consistent for 3 weeks. He performed well in 2 of the 3. And then he went back to a more free safety role. And it was just, it was Jacksonville. It's tough. But DBs, as Mike said earlier, kind of come and go, mix and match. It is what it is. I know that's such dynamite analysis, but maybe we'll get better analysis in this week's episode segment of Play or Fade, where we take a look at a couple players that at each position who we think collectively is higher than consensus or should fade as a lower than consensus or might not have the output. Last week's results had Trayvon Walker at defensive line, which was a miss, didn't have great production. I thought Rashawn Gary against Elijah Vera Tucker would be a good fade. And I will say, if you watch the game, I still think it wasn't a bad play. Vera Tucker did really well against Rashawn Gary. And the sack that Gary got was a play where everything, honestly, Zach Wilson kind of fell backwards and stepped up into Rashawn Gary. Vera Tucker had him blocked well. But stats are stats, and it doesn't matter how they did it. Zaire Franklin, another hit. The guy's Ted Williams-esque whenever it comes to hits. It's Joe DiMaggio style. We're week 6 weeks straight of him being a hit at linebacker.
Did you see the one? Like I can't single out the exact one, but like there was one hit that made the way through Twitter where he just completely leveled the guy. Guy caught the ball, turned around, and boom, knocked him into the next week. It was beautiful. If you love hitting, it was beautiful.
If you like missing, Levante David was probably your play.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome, Levante David owners. You're welcome.
It's impressive. That was you even called it. Mike reached out to us and was like, "Well, looks like Levante David."
You listened to the show.
Yeah.
You got motivated.
Exactly. All I can think of is Michael Jordan.
I'm taking credit.
Yeah, and I took it personally. And he went out. Mike used that same rationale on our You Down with IDP show on Thursday. I, of course, gave you credit for said information. Basically, the little did I know, I was actually blaming you for the poor advice. Didn't realize that in advance, but it is what it is. Tyler had Paulson Adebo as a hit, which was actually, I will say, even though it was a miss, the analysis and the forecasting and the process was not bad because he was targeted a ton. And if he had actually converted more of those into tackles or even just in another pass breakup, I think he would have been in that DB late 2, early 3 conversation, and it would have been a hit. But if my aunt had nuts, she'd be my uncle. So Xavier Woods, on the other hand, was a hit because he was terrible. Jorge.
Yes, sir.
You get defensive line this week. Who do you think is going to outperform consensus?
So, when looking at defensive line play, I always look traditionally for edge rushers, and I look for matchups that like really favor them. And Matt Pryor.
I hate Matt Pryor.
I love Matt Pryor because then that tells me who I should be starting in my defensive line spot. Matt Pryor for the Indianapolis Colts has been playing god awful, has allowed 23 pressures on the season, which is tied for third most. That's great for Danico Autry of the Tennessee Titans. The last time Autry and the Titans played, which was I think a couple weeks ago, he had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Autry is the 24th graded edge rusher amongst all defensive linemen in PFF. It just screams. Autry's great. Autry's good. If you have him on your roster, you're obviously starting him. Or maybe that's not so obvious to some people. If it isn't, it is now. What makes it even more is just the fact that he has such a juicy matchup against Matt Pryor this week. So you're definitely playing him.
It's amazing as Matt Pryor's been terrible at left tackle, where he started off the season.
Right.
They move him to right tackle.
Right.
He's terrible. I think the matchup is juicy, so I start him against, the edge rusher at right tackle, and then they move him into right guard, and he's terrible. So I can't wait to see if I hope he plays right guard again or tackle, and he gets destroyed by Danico Autry. I don't think the Colts have a clue.
So then with Matt Pryor, I think we can all be the Bobs from Office Space and just be like, so what would you say?
You do here.
You do here.
And if his answer is like, nothing. I'm just here. Eventually, he'll have his stapler and he'll be downstairs in the basement. Yeah. And it's just going to be non-existent.
Still collecting a paycheck.
Still collecting a paycheck.
And just everyone calling him Milton because, that's his name from now on.
Who shouldn't collect a paycheck this week, Jorge?
I'm not. So I preface this by saying when I'm saying fade here, I'm saying maybe you shouldn't count on his 13 or 12 or double-digit fantasy point output that he's been giving you the past couple weeks. And I don't really have too much stats to go off of here other than the fact that, DeMarcus Lawrence going up against Penei Sewell is going to be a really, really fun matchup. Yeah. I didn't realize up until like an hour ago that Penei Sewell plays on the right side. I always thought that he was a left tackle coming out of Oregon, going to the Lions. But they've been playing him at right the entire time, which I think is a great. It's gonna be fun to watch. That game, the Battle of the Lines, is going to be fantastic to watch. Where you have Micah going against Hutchinson, Micah going against the other guy, and then seeing DeMarcus Lawrence going against Penei Sewell. That's going to be fun to watch. As a result, I don't think you're going to see as many tackle opportunities for DeMarcus Lawrence, which has really been helping his fantasy output this past couple weeks.
Yeah, Trent Brown over on the left-hand side has been really good. Not Trent Brown. I'm sorry, wrong one. Taylor Decker. Taylor Decker's over on the left. It just, I mean, that it is. And talk about Dallas real quick, Mike. I don't know if I can even begin to express. Like, I look and I see Sam Williams is got 3 pressures, if I'm not mistaken. Dorrance Armstrong with another. DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, it is a collective, just revolving door of production each and every week. It's hard to pinpoint one outside of DeMarcus Lawrence, like you said, Jorge. Or to try to go away from DeMarcus, but from an IDP standpoint, I love watching it because every play seems like there's somebody producing some pressure. It's pretty awesome. So
what I hope happens, just not for Jorge to miss his hit or his fade, which I do hope, but we root for each other on this show.
Yeah, clearly, yes, exactly.
So what I kind of would be interested to see, they sometimes will put Lawrence kind of on the inside over a guard. And if they put him over Logan Stenberg, Logan Stenberg has a pass block grade of 0.7.
I didn't realize they go to points.
I didn't know that either.
That's decimal point grades.
He is grading 75th out of 75 possible guards.
Wow.
So
whoa.
Well, I would take the L for that just to see it happen. I'll tell you what. You know what I mean?
I didn't know that either. I just decided to look up some of the alignment, and I'm like, oh, nickel. Lawrence kicks in as a interior. Oh, Stenberg has a big red 34 grade. And then it's just like blood red for pass block because it's 0.7. I'm like, holy crap.
Well, if it's any consolation, he held Sam Roberts and the rest of the New England pass rush to no pressures in week 5. Unfortunately, that just says how bad he's been in every other week is to offset those positives with such bad. Let's not get too carried away.
That's like white. It was like blood white, like blood red. And it's like, that is really, jeez.
And on the baseball side, there's a site called Baseball Savant, and it's the same. It's blue and it's red. And when it's bleeding red, it's usually good. In this case, it's not so. No, it's the opposite.
Yeah, blood. Yeah, your guy's dying if it's blood. If it's blood.
Right. So Hollywood with work, obviously not able to join us. Hollywood, if you happen a chance to listen, sorry it took me 35 minutes to recognize that you're not here. I think everybody listening that's not watching knows you're not here because they haven't heard your voice, or it could be that we are also shitty.
Haven't heard any Rocky Top. That was kind of what I
can't believe. I know, man. What a chance. He had to come on and just waxed poetic. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's still hungover from that, or he's got the goalpost.
He's got the goalpost, and he's trying to lay low a little bit.
Did you hear about that? They're saying that it's actually not the right. Alabama fans are like, they tore it down because it was not wide enough. That they said that they had rigged the goalpost or whatever. Some conspiracy theorist in Alabama. So yeah, that's what happens when you lose to Tennessee. Is you claim that the goalposts aren't wide enough, and that's why they missed the extra point of the field goal. And they tore it down and threw it in the river to hide the evidence.
Did you see that they actually set up a GoFundMe to get new goalposts for this week?
A GoFundMe for the University?
Yeah, exactly. They set up a GoFundMe to get money to, and it's like,
dude, really? Your Division I football team.
Yeah, I know.
Probably have a spare few $100,000 laying around.
I know. blew my mind when I saw it. I'm like, that's crazy.
Now, here's a question. Gets wants to know, if I tell you my team, can you tell me the moves to make? I'm 1-5. The answer is yes. Not right now, but if you go to @Mike_Wohlert and send a message to him, to @Jorge B. Edwards or @Nate Markham or Hollywood Titan, send to Hollywood. He'll tell you. I will happily take a look at your roster and see if there's anything I can tell you to do.
I don't know. I'm not very good with offense because people are asking me offensive questions and I'm just telling, and it's just not going good at all. I think someone asked me about who to play in flex or receiver, and I gave, and as soon as I saw like first play of the game, like I told him to sit Devontae Parker, and I think his like first play he got like a 50-yard reception. I'm like, okay, I'm just bad at offense.
Luckily, that's about all I got. So you didn't do too bad, but Devontae Parker. All right, so who's getting? Let's see. Without Hollywood at linebacker, I'll tell you someone I'm gonna fade. And I know the matchup. If we look at Pittsburgh as a whole, Pittsburgh allowing to linebackers 9th, 10th most points. Get it. I understand. A team that is not going to spread the ball, more run heavy a little bit. Linebackers typically will probably score decent. I'm not starting Jerome Baker in any situation. I don't care. The floor play for Jerome Baker is lava. And I don't mean hot like, ooh, it's a hot play. I mean, it's burning my ass because he's recorded weeks of 1 tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He's recorded 2 tackles. He's recorded 1 tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And on the season, if you go, let's see, I take that back. It was 5 tackles in week 1 for a total of 4 points fantasy pro scoring. 1.5 in week 2. 15 in week 3 because he had 13 total tackles, a TFL, a half a sack, and a quarterback hit with the PD. And then he goes back to 7 tackles, nothing else for 6 points. Picks up a sack in week 5, 10 points. Against Minnesota, a team that I thought would be pretty decent for scoring from a linebacker position, he gets a 1 solo, 1 point. I don't care what it is. I'm just done. That just probably means Jerome Baker's going to put up 13 tackles again with the sack. I get it, but I'm not
it's
even.
the Levante David effect.
You know what? If you have Levante David and you have Jerome Baker and you want to start him, go for it. I get it. I can't. I'm shying away. I'll tell you another person.
372 defensive snaps with a tackle rate of about 8%.
Yeah,
that is not good.
No, it's garbage. And this is the person who, if you look at the rankings, he's an LB2. He's LB 21. You go down a little bit more, and at LB 35 is JOK. And we talked about JOK earlier. Against Baltimore, I know that's a situation where maybe he can thrive. I still don't want to touch JOK. But I'll tell you a person who I'm going to start was the person above where you mentioned as a money play, Jermaine Pratt as the LB 34. Again, as we've said, I don't expect Atlanta to get the lead and be able to run the ball nearly as much. And I think we're going to see a lot more pass attempts, and Jermaine Pratt should be decently targeted in that game against Atlanta. As the LB 34, I think there's an upside for that LB2, maybe not LB1, but pretty potentially. Jorge, you mentioned how we did last year filling in for Logan Wilson. Mm-hmm. Those are all, those were LB2, borderline LB1 weeks. So I'm good with Jermaine Pratt there as my play in the fade. So we'll see how that works out. Mike at DB, who you fading this week?
I'm fading Jordan Whitehead. He's not one of those must-play DBs. He's had 7 tackles in consecutive games, but the Broncos are a tougher matchup. Mm-hmm. Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley are gobbling up the tackles, and I think he's got a pretty low floor. And Denver's only giving up 11 total tackles a game to the safety position, so there's not really a whole lot to go around from that offense.
How about the play for you?
I'm going to go with Cameron Curl. Packers allowing the most points to the safety position, allowing over 17 tackles to opposing safeties. He mixes his alignment, so he's all over, but he's all over the line of scrimmage, which is good. So he's going to be in position to make tackles on dump offs, whether it's passes to Robert Tonyan, and any of the running backs that can hang with those guys. He's got 9 snaps as the left linebacker, left inside linebacker, 11 snaps as right linebacker and right inside linebacker, 6 snaps as The left strong safety, 9 snaps as the right strong safety. So he's all over the place. He's got 10 tackles in coverage and 12 supporting the run. So he's a pretty versatile guy, and he is all over the line of scrimmage.
I like it when Mike talks stats. Like, I'm a numbers person. Mm-hmm. You are like the IDP stat king. You're not smooth.
It makes sense.
No, it does. Like, you've gone from like Smooth Jazz as a nickname to the IDP Stat King. Like, you're building up monikers left and right. Like, you're going to be like the Apollo Creed, the Master to Disaster, the so and so and so and so. Just
the I'm trying to think of a phrase with the fade that would have to be with an F, but we'll give him another chance. Redemption time, week 7. Mike's fade will not be a blow up spot. It'll actually work out. Jordan Whitehead, you heard that here first. Here comes your 13 tackle, 4 fumble, pick 6 week. Get that. You just got paid, so I'm not sure you can look for any more payday, but it'll be a good start. So last week, I finally, after 6 weeks or 5 weeks of drought, hit my sack lunch, a la Mike Wohlert style, not just with 1, but 2 sacks. But before
Or did you call 2 sacks? I don't remember. Did you call a multi-sack game?
I said, and if I'm not mistaken exactly, is that if there was a chance for multiple sacks, I don't want to ever try to take anything away from your actual 2 sack prediction, because I feel like that was just, carrying over from what you did. So no, I didn't want to go as ballsy as say 2 sacks, but I also didn't make him my number 2. I'm going to pick Nick Bosa and then go. So
yeah.
Which I could have taken Donnell Hunter and then gone Zadarius, but no, Zadarius Smith got that. Took Cam Jordan, who, he had a good week. It just didn't translate again into the sacks as we've seen every week with this stupid segment, but I love it. And Preston Smith on the precipice of me saying Rashawn Gary is going to be a fade. Tyler was comfortable saying he was going to use that momentum, and Preston Smith would get the sack. Little did they know it was Rashawn Gary who was going to literally fall, almost walk into a sack, and get so. Jorge, you didn't get a chance to participate last week. This week, who are you predicting for multiple sacks, or just 1 if you're a sissy?
I'm gonna go the sissy route and hope for the non-sissy route output. We talked about him earlier, and at this point of the season, maybe the low-hanging fruit here, but give me interior defensive lineman Quinnen Williams. This guy, all he does is just give you sacks week in and week out, regardless of the difficulty of the matchup. He's a monster, and until I see him not do it anymore, I'm always going to say he's going to get you a sack. Obviously, I'm not going to give you the same player each week, but this week, he's definitely the guy.
Those are against the rules. That's why I like that pick, because you have to pick a different person. Granted, that means we're only going to have to pick 16 players a piece, or 17 as this goes along, but whatever. Mike, who is your sack lunch?
I'm going with Jana Gangakwe of the Colts. He's going to be lining up on Dennis Daly. He's allowed 2 sacks in consecutive games and 5 total quarterback hits. He doesn't have as bad of a grade as that guy from whomever, Detroit, with the 0.7, but he's had a PFF grade below 50 and 2 below 30, including a 14.5. So he's not good either. So Jana Gangakwe, I think he's in a good bounce back situation. He only had 1 total pressure last week, brought his pressure rate below 10%, but he's just one of those guys that I actually think I was watching the Colts game. I was trying to find some good tackles or some good plays. Jana Gangakwe actually had an impact in the run. He actually made a run, was disruptive in the run. So I was like, holy cow.
Holy versatility, Batman.
We're going to have frogs flying falling from the sky soon.
Exactly.
So just one pressure last week, but I think he's in a pretty good bounce back situation against Dennis Daly and the Titans.
The one thing I love about this show is that we find the offensive linemen that I know that we are going to pick on, and it just turns into like the best recipe for disaster for the players that we love to go against them. And every week, if their poor family member tuned in, they're going to think that we're just this offensive line hating group of narcissists that find Dennis Daly and Alex Leatherwoods and so on and so forth, which brings me to Kelvin Beachum. Kelvin Beachum is not a bad right tackle, but Kelvin Beachum has not exactly had the best of luck this year against defensive fronts that have, I would say, quality pass rush on both sides. And he doesn't have a chance to get to work double, especially when they have pressure up the middle. And when Kelvin Beachum, mind you, let's say who he is the right tackle for the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals, Rodney Hudson, their starting center, is going to be out this week, most likely. Already puts pressure on Kyler Murray and the offense and the Arizona Cardinals offense, who, mind you, is like, I think they're third in the NFL in dropbacks. So the pass attack is extremely heavy. They throw the ball a ton. Usually that translates into pass rush opportunities. Last couple of weeks, Kelvin Beachum has allowed 5 pressures to to Brian Burns and Carolina Panthers. He allowed 5 pressures to the Philadelphia Eagles. This past week against Seattle, he only allowed 1 pressure, but it's Seattle. No, I mean, come on, it's Seattle. He shouldn't allow more than 1 pressure against Seattle. But against New Orleans Saints, he gets Cam Jordan. And I know that nothing better than using Mike's miss last week to my advantage. And Cam Jordan doesn't go too many games back-to-back where he doesn't get at least 1 sack. Law of averages are going to play in my favor, and Cam Jordan will record 1 sack. If we could get half sacks, I'd give him 1, because I think David Onyemata and him combined for another. Even including the additional half sack on that, that's a prognosis forecast, Nostradamus style. Like
he's getting negative sacks now.
Negative sacks. He's going to get he's going to come out, he's going to shave his mustache, and he's going to not play at all. And then,
hey, since we're bashing offensive linemen still, I just want to bash one more in Greg Little, who is like the worst graded offensive lineman in all of football, who is the right tackle for the Miami Dolphins. And Tua is coming back. So technically the right tackle is his blindside protector. And he just happens to be going against Malik Reed this week of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has a 8% pressure rate, which is no bueno. But going against Greg Little, come on.
18. Hey. I mean, I'm sorry. How is Tua?
Bold move, Cotton.
All right, not off.
See, I'm wondering if they move Alex Highsmith over and do some running around.
That would be something. Yeah.
Oh, poor Tua. Please, for the health of Tua Tagovailoa, Alex Highsmith needs to just take a week off, not do anything. He almost was my pick, just because it was. I mean, he's leading the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I must pick Highsmith too, because I'm like, if Highsmith is on the left side, then I'm like, he's got a little bit of the tougher matchup.
Right. Was that Teron Armstead over there?
Yeah.
Who's been banged up and everything else. But any final little notes, anything to add to this wonderful episode?
Just hopefully some of you guys, I know we've seen, hopefully you guys are hanging in, that hopefully your fantasy team isn't making you aim for the bushes.
Yeah. Aim for the
way to bring it back to the other guys. I love it.
I do too. That was great. Jorge.
So kind of late breaking news. Coincidentally, it's late because it's 11:14 p.m. East Coast time. We're moving our time. We're going to be an hour earlier going forward this season.
I can't hack it anymore, so I'm the wuss. So I can't hack it anymore.
So we're going to be going to 9 p.m. Eastern Shoot the Gap 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, and a Daily Fix podcast or DFS podcast will be going to 9 p.m. on Thursdays. So look forward to that going forward.
Awesome. So we'll look to see you at that time next week. Again, get all your questions to any one of us on any of the socials out there. We'll be happy to help answer any questions. And we'll see you all an hour early, bright and bushy-tailed, Mike, right? Next Wednesday.
Same bet channel, different bet time.
Exactly. All right, you guys. Have a good one.